Do you swear or affirm that any testimony you give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right. Mr. Mark, you will just, thank you, sir. You'll be seated and state your full name for the record. And your last name, please, sir.
It's Mark Ball. Last name B-A-L-L.
How you doing today?
Be doing better if I wasn't here.
I hear you. Well, we'll get you out of here pretty quickly. I wanted to just ask you a few very quick questions in response to the defense case. And first question I'd ask you is, prior to the murders of Maggie and Paul, did you ever hear Alec express any distrust of SLED?
No, sir.
Can you tell the jury what your observations were of his relationship with the law enforcement community?
I thought it was very good. I mean, he interacted with them regularly, as most civil lawyers do, and then with his side gig as, solicitor, he obviously had interaction with them as well.
Do you remember coming to find out that Alec had installed blue lights in the private vehicle?
Yes.
And can you tell the jury roughly how long ago that was?
I can't tell you precisely. I can tell you it wasn't the vehicle that's been seized. He got that vehicle in the end of December before the murders occurred in June, so he'd had that vehicle about 6 months roughly, and it was on the vehicle that was prior to that, and it was a Suburban as well. I don't remember when in that chain that they were actually installed, but it was some time.
Do you have some property around in this area?
I do.
And are you a hunter and an outdoorsman and shooter?
I am.
All right. Do you ever shoot hogs and other nuisance creatures?
Yeah, a bunch of them.
And when you're riding around looking for hogs, what can you do that in the daytime?
Yes.
And is it not uncommon to see hogs during the daytime?
I shot 2 weeks ago. I shot 5
During the daytime?
during the day, 4:30. They come out, all different times, but I mean, the more pressure you put on them, the more nocturnal they'll become. But they eat all the time, and they root, and the rooting's what the real problem is. They root up your roads and fields and everything else.
Have you ever known the defendant? You've known the defendant for how long?
34 years.
You aware the defendant and his family had a number of long guns, rifles, and shotguns?
Yes.
Have you ever known him to talk much about target shooting a pistol?
No, sir.
Do you know what Paul's weapon of choice was when shooting hogs?
Shooting.
Hogs.
The 300 blackouts were bought for hog hunting. I assume Paul would have shot them with anything he had, but that's what the 300 blackouts were bought for.
Did you have any conversations with the defendant when he was purchasing the original 2 blackouts as it relates to hog hunting?
I did. I'm not a big 300 blackout fan, and I told him that, and he bought them anyway, and I think his cousin actually put them together, who was a game warden.
In the time after the murders, did you have a number of conversations with the defendant about his activities that night?
I did. I had that night and in subsequent days.
And did you go over those in fairly some sort of detail?
Yes, sir. At times, sometimes it wasn't detailed. It would just be checking on him to see how he was doing and to see, if they'd come up with any leads or where things stood. I mean, everybody was trying to figure this out. I mean, this is one of those lightning strikes in life that just jolts you, and there's no rhyme or reason.
What, if anything, did he say about whether or not he checked Maggie and Paul before he called 911?
As I testified before, my recollection of it was that he testified, or he told me, not testified, but he told me that he went to Maggie and then he went to Paul, rolled Paul over. His phone, I didn't hear the phone the first time he said that. I think that was about the second or third time. But I also wasn't really listening. I was listening to what occurred. You know, who did this? Why would they have done this? But the second time he went, it was reversed, where he went to Paul and then to Maggie. And like I told you before, I don't know whether that's just a slip, you know, from one to the other or vice versa. But he definitely went, checked on him, then called 911.
When was the first time you heard his admission and claim now that he did go to the kennels around 8:44 p.m.?
Thursday.
This
Thursday.
past Thursday?
Yeah.
And was he clear prior to that he did not go down there in his conversations with you?
Never said anything about that or any reason for it. It just, he'd never been there.
You said you've known the defendant for how long?
34 years.
Knowing what you know now, was he able to look you in the eye and lie convincingly and effortlessly to you?
Objection.
Objections overruled.
I mean, it's pretty obvious. I didn't know the stealing. I didn't know any of that. And, you know, it's not the way a plaintiff's practice works. You work on your own cases unless you're working with somebody else. And so you wouldn't necessarily be talking about his particular cases. So it's sort of yes and no. I mean, obviously, a lot of things that I was told and a lot of things just weren't there. I mean, the blue lights, the reasoning for the blue lights, the money missing from our account when he cashed the 2 checks, all of those types of things. You know, obviously they weren't truthful.
And did you feel like you knew the defendant well prior to June 7th?
Sure thought I did.
By the defense.
Just be clear, after the Labor Day weekend when Alex was confronted by the law firm,
Well, it was before Labor Day.
yeah, the
It was Thursday.
Friday or Thursday
Right.
before,
It was the Friday before we confronted him.
you ever talked to him since the day he was confronted?
I talked to him on that Monday when I believe that he and Randy and John were going to, I believe, Atlanta,
Okay.
to the facility down there. And I got a phone call, I don't know, 1 or 2 o'clock, whatever it was. I was coming from the office. I'd been digging through his files and stuff, and I got a call. It registered as John Marvin, and I picked it up and said, "What you need, John?" And it was Alec.
And that would have been Labor Day 2021?
That would have been Labor Day 2021.
And since Labor Day 2021, you've not spoken with Alec?
I have not.
And since Labor Day 2021, Alec has either been in rehab or jail, is that correct?
He has been, to my knowledge. I mean,
So you've not had any opportunity, I mean, he's been represented by counsel as well, right?
sure. I mean, I wouldn't expect to if,
Sure.
you know, he's being charged with crimes.
Right.
You know.
So you wouldn't have any expectation that since September of 2021 that he would come to you, talk to you about whether he was on a video, whether he was at the kennels, or where he was, correct?
No, not since September.
Okay. You were asked questions about Alex distrust of SLED, and you testified that he had a good relationship with law enforcement.
He did. I never heard any mistrust of SLED or anybody else
Well, let's talk about that.
from him. I mean,
Well, did Alec take the position that his son Paul was wrongfully charged with for felony boating under the influence causing a death and serious bodily injury as a result of the boating accident?
yes, he I mean, I think he disputed that and was planning a vigorous defense of that.
And that happened, those charges have been pending since 2019, is that correct?
4 years ago, a couple days ago.
Right. And so he did express some dissatisfaction over that case, correct?
Well, over that case, but I don't know that it was directed at law enforcement or who it was directed at. It was just, it wasn't, he didn't specifically say or didn't say, I distrust SLED or I distrust Beaufort County Sheriff's Department or DNR or whoever. It was just, he thought that there was defensible, it was a defensible case, the criminal charges against Paul, and you know, there was this back and forth as to whether it could have been one of two people driving.
And you were informed, I believe, sometime in the spring of 2021 that SLED was actually investigating Alec for obstructing the boating accident investigation, right?
No, sir.
You were not aware of that?
I was not aware of that.
Do you know whether Alec was aware of that?
I have no idea what he was. He never said that to me. I didn't know about anything to do with the investigation until the grand jury, when I went to the grand jury.
Were you aware that he and his father sat in on the criminal prosecution of his good friend Greg Alexander?
I became aware of that. Well, back up. Yeah, I knew they went over there. I didn't know much about the detail until after the SLED came in after the 3rd of September 2021.
And Chief Alexander was prosecuted after SLED investigated him, correct?
I think that's the case, yes.
And that Alec and his father thought that Chief Alexander was wrongfully accused. Were you aware of that?
I don't know what they thought about it. I know that they were close to Greg Alexander, and Greg Alexander ultimately got off on a jury trial.
Now we do know that the Colleton County Sheriff's Department, in this case, recused themselves because Alec was...
Let me correct something. I said that he got off. He was found not guilty.
Right.
I mean, I don't want there to be a negative implication. I know Greg as well.
Sure.
So,
Well, thank you for clarifying that. And we do know that Sheriff Buddy Hill and the entire Colleton County Sheriff's Department recused themselves in this case because of Alec's close relationship with the Colleton County Sheriff's Department and law enforcement. Is that right?
I know they recused themselves, and I know they called in SLED that night. I wasn't privy to the reasoning, but I would make that assumption.
And there are different levels of law enforcement agencies, right? There's the,
Sure.
say, the Town of Hampton Police Department, Hampton County Sheriff's Department, and Alec had a really good relationship at that level with those folks, correct?
He did.
And he had a really good relationship with the Colleton County Sheriff's Department, to your knowledge?
He did as far as I know, yes.
Right. But I think I covered that. So you mentioned that hogs become nocturnal when there's a lot of pressure on them?
They can.
They
But
can?
It depends on a lot of things. Like right now, the swamp's up. They're much more on the hill.
Right.
Then when times are dry, they go out into the flat swamp and root up everything out there.
And the pressure that you're referring to is hunting pressure.
Yeah.
And are you aware that Paul put a lot of pressure on the hogs at Moselle?
I knew Paul hunted hogs a lot of places. At one point, Paul had hog dogs and would hunt on people's property. He came to my property. He went to Ronnie's. But how much pressure they were putting on them, I don't know because I wasn't over there. I mean, I'd ridden around their property several times, but it wasn't about hog hunting.
Sure. And I want to ask you about the Moselle property tract. So, we've all seen the drone photos of the house and the kennels and And Moselle Road, that's sort of right in front of the residence.
Yes.
Very. And then if you're sort of looking from a drone, and we've seen some aerial photos, I guess if you're headed south, there's the Dove Field right adjacent. Is that south, I would think?
Yeah, at least east.
Okay.
Um,
And then back behind the Moselle residence, I think there's a river.
well, there's a swamp.
The swamp
And then
again.
the big Salkehatchie is back in there.
So the swamp begins behind the house and goes, I don't know, is that west?
Sort of south.
Right.
If the runway's running east and west,
Okay.
then it would be
But
south.
but the swamp is behind the house.
It's behind the house.
Okay. And across the street from the house is duck pond and shooting range and no swamp.
Correct. In timberland.
And all the hogs are going to be behind the house.
They're all over. They follow. There's a watershed ditch in there. They follow wherever, but predominantly they seek refuge or whatnot in the swamp. But they can be anywhere. I have them. You know, there's gum ponds and every place else, and they just trample
Sure.
wherever they want to go. But you're right. By and large, they're in the swamp because it's wooded
Right.
and
And
thick.
and in the month of June, pretty warm, is it not?
It usually is here in South Carolina.
Yes, it is. And do hogs like stay in the swamp more in the heat
Not-
of the summer?
I haven't noticed that, and I've killed probably well over 1,000 hogs.
All right.
And so we trap them all the way through. I mean, I've got 2 traps, and well, actually, I got 6 traps. But I mean, I trap them, I shoot them. You know, they're just a scourge. They eat everything. They root up your roads. Then they get in your pine trees when they're little. They'll root them up. They're a teetotal nuisance. I carry a gun with me most of the time.
Do you have a gun with a thermal scope so you can hunt them at night?
I do have a thermal, and then I have others.
Yeah, Mr. Mall, is there ever a time when you don't have a gun with you when you're traveling around?
Only if I forget it,
Okay.
but
That's what I thought.
usually I have one.
And you understood that Maggie and Alec got 300 blackouts from Paul and Buster for Christmas one year, and they came with thermal scopes.
I do.
And are you aware that Paul had his lost or stolen,
I was.
and then he received a replacement without a thermal scope,
Right. My understanding was it had a red dot.
and that he didn't use that one very often. He used Buster's that did have the thermal scope. You've learned that?
I've heard bits and pieces. I haven't been watching everything, but I did.
Right.
Somebody told me that, or I heard it, one or the other.
And Buster's is sitting here in the courtroom. Were you aware of that?
I didn't. I assumed y'all had.
Okay.
I know that the black one was taken from the house because I was standing there.
Right. That's fair.
But you wouldn't use a thermal
In the daytime.
in the daytime for the
Right.
most part. I mean, you could, I suppose, but it wouldn't serve much purpose.
There's been some discussion about Alex emoting and being emotional during trials. He's an emotional person altogether, isn't he?
I think he probably is.
I mean, you remember him speaking at when his dad got the order of the Palmetto, for example,
I do.
and he'd get emotional then.
Yeah.
And you remember him speaking at the trial lawyers after he had finished up his term, and he got emotional then.
Well, I wasn't there for that. So.
Oh, you missed that? Okay. But you've seen him get emotional frequently.
Sure, everybody gets emotional.
Well, and he was extremely emotional after losing Maggie and Paul.
There's no question about that.
One last point. Do you recall reading or learning on the morning of June the 8th that statement was released through the Colleton County Sheriff's Office that says, at this time, there's no danger to the public. If information is received that dictates otherwise, we will immediately notify the public.
Yes.
Did that concern you?
Very much.
And why did it concern you?
Well, I had been over there that night. I left 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, came home, laid down for a little while, took a shower, and then I heard that. And I got on the phone with Sheriff Smalls on my way into work about 7:30 or so, and I asked him if he knew anything about what that was about, and he said, I don't know, I'll check. And then later that evening, the lieutenant from over here called me, and he explained that they didn't have any credible threats against anybody other than, they didn't have any threats, period, but they didn't have any, there was no knowledge, no information about anybody else being in harm's way. And we had probably a 30 or 45-minute conversation, and it didn't leave me any more. I guess I still had questions because we have 60 or 70 people that work for us.
Sure.
And the last thing I wanted was somebody coming in and blasting up the place. And so we made the decision to lock the doors, and we did that for probably a couple months.
All right.
And just like we're doing now.
Thank you. Some indulgence. That's all I have.
Anything further?
You were asked a little bit about Colleton Sheriff's Department recusing themselves. Are you aware that they continue to assist on the case?
I know they were out there, and I wouldn't, the internal politics of who's lead and who's not lead. I mean, I know that they were there because one of the deputies called me the next morning and asked me where Paul's truck was, and I called Alex and verified where it was, and told, I had several interactions with them. So yeah, they were still involved. They weren't.
And for the first few months of the investigation, the local solicitor's office was still running the investigation, to your knowledge?
As far as I know, they were out there. Mr. Stone, his chief assistant were out there, and an investigator were out there the next day. And I want to say they were out there maybe 2 days, but to lend whatever assistance they could lend, I guess.
And that'd be the same
And
solicitors?
then I think it was August, I saw it like everybody else in the paper that Mr. Stone had recused himself.
And that'd be the same office for which the defendant had a badge, is that correct?
Correct. He was an assistant, and so was his father.
All right. Thank you. Nothing further.
Anything further?
Just briefly, Mr. Ball, isn't it correct that law enforcement does the investigation, solicitor's office does the prosecution?
That's the way it normally works.
Thank you. That's all I have.
You.
Thank you, Your Honor.